Give me 1 second here. Oh, give me adequate moments. Adequate hybrid moments. Oh, what the heck is going on here? Ah! It's everything everywhere all at once. Is my phone in this pocket? It is not. Good. Hang on. Let's see here. Hey everybody. Welcome along. Good morning all. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Run around, head cut off, etc., etc. Pre-sale begins. Trying to get tickets for the state. Okay, I do not want VIP upgrade. Uh-huh. All right, hold on 1 second, everybody. One second. One second, still 1 second, still doing something in another window. So much going on at 1 second. Ah! Hi, everybody. Okay. Continue. Morning, Grandma Bell. Hey, everybody, I agree, blah, blah, blah. Confirmed. Yes. All right. Hey, everybody. Morning, Katie. Morning, Bob. Everybody still recovering? Me, too. Hey. Yeah, Benny's kind of on strike right now, I guess. Oh, the music that I've got up at the moment is the Lost Shel Silverstein album, which has the F word right in its title. Here's some, here, let's go, Benny. All right. Running around, got tickets to see The State, a comedy troupe I've been watching since the 90s. Okay, welcome along, everybody. My purchase is complete, all right. Okay. There. 1 second while I take a breath. Just about to buy a ticket. Well, what happens? What happens is FedEx comes to the door right at the wrong second, etc. Glad everybody's still around. Everybody's still recovering. I know I am. All right.
Benny Goodman, ladies and gentlemen, the man with the torrid clarinet and
even more torrid band.
Purveys assorted rhythms, all danceable, in the Urban Room of the Congress Hotel in Chicago.
All right, we were just the first to dance to Benny Goodman in the Urban Room in a really long time over the weekend. Hope many of you got to join us. If not, it is over on TikTok, the Adam Chicago TikTok. We'll do TikTok theater one of these days very soon. So welcome along, everybody. Thanks for bearing with me while I buy tickets to a comedy show for next month. One of so many concert tickets I am buying right now. But that's all right. Kathleen, glad you see it. I also got to run immediately from here to head downtown to go be on WBEZ Reset at noon, and we're not even talking about dead people. Condé Nast has named Chicago the best city in America for the 7th year in a row, and they've asked me to go on NPR WBEZ to talk about it down at Navy Pier, so I am heading right there from here. And yeah, jumping right into everything. Last night was the start of the Haunted History Tours. Those continue tonight. They got me on a much tighter schedule over there, but it's still working out okay. Hey, Miles. I've had to trim the tours a little bit, just a couple of minutes. They actually made it for a tighter show. Well, let me tell you what I'm doing in this moment. Tomorrow I will be broadcasting from Springfield. I am heading down there for the Conference on Illinois History just to be on a panel and take right off back home again. It's a lot of time in the car. Then back home in time to do Spooky Graves. There's just a chance I'll have to be broadcasting from the car to start out with saying, well, just log back in 5 minutes. You know how these things go. Then Friday, we got Find a Grave Friday, followed by some Bob Dylan concerts for me. And in the midst of those, we have got Graceland and Rose Hill coming up this weekend. Lots and lots of great stuff, but today we're going to talk about what I was researching this morning, which involved Congress having a fight. Completely by coincidence. Definitely not influenced by events of last night. By the way, if anybody wants to nominate me for Speaker of the House, we're going to have a lot of fun in the week I'd lasted that job. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about Trinity Church. Last week I was working on a couple of guys in box tombs back behind the statue of Mr. Watts over here. A couple of really awful human beings. Not even New Yorkers. These guys were from South Carolina and Savannah and all that implies. One of them was president of the South Carolina Senate, has his name attached to some absolutely abominable laws. We're going to move over to this section back to the right of him, though. And in that little ramp, to talk about Matthew Davis. Now, they added this ramp to make the church a little more accessible just a few years back. That went right over a couple of vault entrances, but it's not like they use the vaults anymore anyway. As many of them as possible are sealed up permanently. One thing I've requested in their archives for next month is to get to go through all of the vault records. That's going to be so cool. Going through like a vault condition report from 1868 is in the finding aid. Oh, I want to see that so bad. But this is Matthew Davis. Now, right across the way from here, you can see the little pyramidal structure. That is Alexander Hamilton. But right here is Matthew L. Davis, who is known around town, both in New York and Washington, as the old boy in specs throughout the early 19th century. He died in 1850. By that time, he had been a fixture in both New York and Washington for as long as most people could remember. Which is rather ironic that he is this close to Alexander Hamilton, because he was actually Burr's second in the famous duel fought between Hamilton and Burr back in 1804, in which Burr killed Hamilton, of course. Now, Davis was Burr's biographer. He was his closest confidant. He was the guy who was in charge of all of his letters, and the guy who destroyed all of the letters that he said indicated no great morality on the part of female correspondents. To say nothing of the morality of Colonel Burr, of course. But in the intervening years, in the 1830s, Mr. Davis became a journalist. He moved to Washington, wrote for a couple of New York papers under the name The Spy in Washington. Now, a lot of journalists, even though everybody knew who they were, a lot of journalists wrote under pseudonyms like that just because journalist was a job that tended to get you into duels, that tended to get you into fights in those days. And that is what I was digging into this morning. So back in 1838, The Spy in Washington in the New York Inquirer wrote an article accusing an unnamed senator of graft. Of telling somebody, no, don't worry. The fact that you need something, that something needs to be done isn't how things work in this town. It's all a matter of which strings you pull. So pull my strings and I'll make sure that your project needs to be done. Now, he didn't say who this was exactly, but Representative Jonathan Silly, or we'll just say Siley so it doesn't sound too silly. Jonathan Siley took offense and wrote to the editor of the New York newspaper demanding satisfaction. Meanwhile, there were people in Congress who knew exactly who the spy in Washington was, talking about, let me see if I can pull up the exact wording here. One guy, Representative Duncan, shouted that he sits above you in the gallery now, brooding calumny, black basin foul, a scoundrel, a liar, and a coward. They said that this guy was so beneath contempt that it was impossible for him to slander anybody because nothing he ever said could ever be taken seriously to start with. They were very serious about ripping on Matthew Davis, but Mr. Silly still wrote a challenge. The editor was not the author of the article, but he sent via William Graves and other congressmen a letter demanding more explanation. And when Silly's reply was not to anybody's liking, Mr. Graves, Representative Graves, was so personally offended that he challenged Silly to a duel himself. And since Silly was challenged, he chose rifles because he knew that Graves was already a good shot with pistols. So they went out to Maryland, and these two congressmen, sitting congressmen, fought a duel with rifles. Here's the three of them. Here's Mr. Graves, Mr. Silly, Mr. Graves, and James Watson Webb, who was the editor of the newspaper at the time. So they went out to Maryland, where Mr. Silly was shot with a rifle and killed. They stood 90 yards apart, and when they both missed on the first shot, they agreed to get a little bit closer and, settled their problem in the most mature way possible. There's a very interesting Spy in Washington article where Davis reports on this, and in the middle he says, "A man has just come into my room bringing me the intelligence that Representative Silly's body has been conveyed to his lodgings. He lost the fight on the third fire." Now, this is why I didn't even realize that two sitting members of Congress as late as 1838 were fighting duels against each other. Of course, it was sometime later that Charles Sumner gave a speech attacking slavery, and Preston Brooke came and beat him within an inch of his life with a cane. There's actually a drawing of a grave over at St. Paul's, the next cemetery up, that was done by Sumner himself. It's like a great-grandparent of his, so he went to examine the grave and make a drawing of it. I finally got a copy of it. I had to get it through. The Harvard Library had it. And they sent me a scan of it. Turns out, Representative Sumner was not a very good artist. That's what it turns out. But the rifles for this still exist. This is Mr. Graves' rifle. And this is the patch box on Mr. Graves' rifle. After spending yesterday watching congressmen tearing each other apart and just eating all the popcorn that I could. So, all right. In any case, everybody, thanks a lot for joining me today. We're going to move right on back over here. That's what I was researching today. And no, the winner of the duel was not arrested for murder. A lot of newspapers called it murder, but he managed to get away with it. He didn't run for re-election, but he didn't get kicked out of Congress either. So, all right, everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining me. We'll give you a quick plug for the upcoming tours once again. Thursday night, tomorrow night, we will be doing the spookiest graves in Chicago virtually, coming from cemeteries all over the place. And after that, October 7th, the morning, we will be doing Graceland Cemetery. October 8th is Rose Hill. Now, note the time on Graceland is 11:30. We have to sandwich ourselves in between all the other companies that are running Graceland tours in October. But all right, so thanks a lot for joining me, everybody. I'm Adam for Mysterious Chicago Tours. And until then, make sure you nominate me for Speaker of the House. I won't last a month, but we'll have a really good time while I'm there, taking the job completely unseriously. But all right. Yes, tomorrow is already Thursday. Tonight, once again, there's a lot of room tonight, I think, on the Lincoln Park Zoo tours. There's going to be, I don't know if it's the late tour or the early tour that some Instagram influencer is going to be present on. So as many people are talking about how awesome I am or they're present, absolutely the better. So thanks for joining me. I'm Adam from Mysterious Chicago Tours, telling everybody to stay safe and stay strong. And of course, if you can, stay spooky, everybody.